Hello everyone, and this is a free lesson for the patterns and textures in Houdini series, which was launched last month for Patreon only, and now it will be available on Gumroad. So this is sort of like a launch video and a free lesson to announce the availability of the series on Gumroad and my website. And the first 100 sales will get a $25 discount on the entire series. So there is also a trailer for this, which was launched in July. So you can just go to my YouTube channel and watch the trailer to get a better idea of everything that is covered in the series. But just to give you a general idea, the series will cover all the various 2D maps and patterns and noise maps that are available in Houdini, and how to sort of use those and modify those at warp level and create a variety of textures and also effects like these using those maps. Okay, so this lesson is we're going to cover for loops in warps. Okay, and then once we sort of understand how for loops work, we will create an effect like this using that. So to get started, I'll just create a grid and I'll keep it to 1 by 1, and I'll set the rows and columns to 512 by 512. So what you technically have is, think of it as an image that has 512 by 512 pixels. Like each polygon now represents a pixel, right? So that's what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the grid and I'm going to make the background dark. Okay, so what exactly does for loop do? To put it very, very simply, you're basically repeating the texture over and over again with like slight modification. So let's say if you want to continuously just rotate a texture that you have and just overlay it one on top of the other, that's what you're doing with a for loop. Okay, so it's technically like the for loop that you do at SOP level, but you're doing it in warps. Okay, so nothing really different, but it functions a little differently. All right, so the first thing I'll do is I'll give this a UV project, and we will set it to points because we're going to function at points, and I'll just click initialize. So it's roughly this size. Okay, make sure that you keep it to points because default is kept to vertices, right? If it's not kept to points, then when you go into warp level and try to access the UV map, it won't work. Okay, now the rest is going to be done at warp level. So we're going to take an attribute warp, and the first thing I'll do is I'm going to create a hexagon pattern. Okay, so I'll come to patterns and find something called rounded hexes, and I'm going to take, there is the UV inbuilt into the global, so we don't need to take like a bind or anything, but I'll just take a transform matrix that will allow me to control the UVs and plug that into hexes and take the amount and plug it into colors. So there you go, you'll have a single hexagon. So this is a nice enough map because you can sort of control the size of it and you can control like the hexness. The higher it goes, it becomes like a flower. And then if it's too small, it becomes a circle. Okay, and then you can also round it this way. So if you increase the sharpness, see, it sort of becomes rounded, and when it's very low, it becomes like that. Okay, so I'll just keep it around, let's keep it around there, like a little bit of like a flowery thing, and that's fine. Okay, now what I want is I want like an outline to this. So I'm going to take the blur and make it about 150. So it's really sort of blurred out, and then take a stripes node and drop it in the middle. So that will give you this. And then just sort of increase the offset till it becomes that. Okay, so we have like a black outline, and then we have a white outline and everything else becomes black. And then we can adjust the stripe width to get what we want. So there you go. So this is basically what we want here. Okay, so now what we want to do is I want to repeat this like a bunch of times, but I just want to keep rotating it. Like, so every iteration that we get, it should maybe sort of like think that you're doing like a copy stamp, okay, or a copy and transform basically. So let's say for every iteration or for every copy, it should rotate like 10 degrees or 20 degrees, something like that. Okay, so the way to do it is take a for loop, and you need to do a couple of things. Like the first thing you want to do is, which is the most important, is there has to be something in length. Okay, the length is the number of sort of iterations or number of repeats. So what we do is we'll take a constant. If you're going to expose this at like SOP level, then you can take a parameter node. But for now, I can just take a constant, set it to integer. You don't need to name it, but we can just, I'll just call it as total, and I'll plug it into length. And the minute you do that, like that warning sign goes away. Okay, the next thing is we need like a set of values that we are going to modify. Okay, so the first value that is the most important is you need the result. Okay, because you have this basic result and then you could modify it. Okay, and then you're going to combine it together and get the final result out. So for that, we need like a base result to sort of, come in. So we're going to take another constant node. Let's call this as result. And this will come into the next in. Okay, so this will be a float value, and let's plug it into next in. And then you can take this variable, because what you're doing is you're saying, okay, it's generated here, then somewhere in the middle we'll make changes, and then that will feed out into the end. Okay, so for now I'll just take the variable 1 and feed it out over here. Okay, and if you zoom out right now, like you're not really seeing much happening, but there you go. When you select it, see, if you select this one or that one, when nothing is selected, you don't see anything. But when you select it, you'll see like this blue line kind of starting from here and, going out into the beginning. So this is the loop that you're getting. Okay, now the one thing that is very important is you should name these. Okay, default it's called var1, okay, which is variable 1. But usually you want to name them so that it gives you what you're using. Okay, so we can try to like call it something here, but that doesn't work. So the simplest thing is just name it here, and whatever name you give in the begin is the same name you have to give in the end, otherwise it won't work. Okay, so let's call this as result, and we'll call this as, see, the minute this name changed, now the loop is broken. Okay, like there's no blue line anymore. So come here and call it result, and there you go, your blue line is back. So what we're going to do is, just to see that if it's working or not, is we're going to take these stripes or these hexagons or flower, whatever, and we're going to merge them together, just one on top of the other. Okay, so we're just going to add everything. So I'm going to, just to see if it's working or not, I'll take a fit range here, and I'm just going to lower the destination max, so it's like really faded out. And what we'll do is I'll take an add, and this is the result that we're getting. This is, since we're adding it, we're going to keep the result at 0. If you're going to multiply, then keep the result at 1. So this will be adding, like, so it starts from 0, then this comes in, okay, and then it feeds out, and then it loops back to the beginning. So this is what it is going to add with, and now it's going to loop back. Okay, and then I can just take the end result and bring it down to color. Now you're getting black right now because our iterations, or our total length is at 0, so you're not generating anything. So minute you come to 1, you'll see the first flower, and you come to 2, you'll basically just see the flower getting brighter, because we're just adding the same thing over and over and over again on top. So basically what that means is it's working. Okay, we know that it is working. Okay, so what I want to do is, as I said, for per frame, for per iteration here, I just wanted to rotate a little bit. So I'll take a copy of this, and we'll call this rotate, and this plugs in here. And what we want is, we want to control the rotation in the X form. Okay, so if we check here, you'll see that it can rotate. But the problem is that it rotates like this. Okay, because the thing is, the center is here, not in the middle. So what you want to do is, you want to take the pivot and make it 0.5. So if you make it 0.5, and then if we rotate it, you'll see that it rotates in the center. Okay, so that is the first thing you want to change. The second is, we only want to change the Z axis. So we will take a float to vector. Okay, and I'll just plug that into rotation. So now we'll set up our loop. So let me just pull this back a little. So this is my rotation. Let's call this rotate. I'll take this and bring it back here in the beginning, and I'll call this rotate as well. And if we zoom out, so we have two lines going now, okay, which means it's working. Let me just try to change the color of this. Yeah, okay, whatever, doesn't really matter. Okay, so once our loop is working, what we're going to do is we're going to take this rotation value and plug it into the Z axis over here. Okay, so which sort of brings this into the loop. But the problem is like nothing is happening because we're not modifying or we're not changing the rotation, right? Like the rotation starts at 0 and then it goes out and nothing really happens. Like you will see a change happening if I start to rotate this. So you'll see that it is rotating. But what we want is for every loop it goes through, the value should modify. Okay, so what I can do is I can just take an add constant and drop it in the middle, and that immediately you'll see this happening. So what's happening is for every loop it goes through, it rotates 1 degree. So if I make this say, let's try 30 degrees. So there you go. Okay, so it's a very nice way to start making patterns and stuff. See, so this is pretty nice. And then I can just start to modify a little bit here. So if I like take this and increase it or decrease it, see, so you can actually create some nice patterns with this. And even with the stripes, if you start to make some changes, you'll see that this will make some interesting designs overall. And you can also try to increase the frequency. See, there you go. So that looks pretty neat. And let's say if we take the destination back to 1, okay, that's too bright, but so you can start to create like some pretty fancy stuff with this, okay, which otherwise like normally is not entirely possible. So let's do one thing. Let's take this to like 10 degrees. Ooh, that looks nice. And let's lower the frequency back to like 1, and okay, I think this is nice. Let's make it slightly rounded, and I can try to adjust the offset. Yeah, okay. Okay, so that's basically it. Like you don't really need to do too much. Like we can take this and let's say if I bring this up to, this is 10, right? So we can bring it up to like 36. So which is the total number that you want. You can keep it lower so it will look a little more interesting. Like if you just want like half a pattern, that's not too bad either. Okay, so now comes the question that we want to animate this. So what I'll do is I'm going to take the offset value here and we're going to animate this offset. Okay, so this should give us like an interesting enough result. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to take a float to vector 2 because this is a vector 2, and I'll take the time, I'll put it through a multiply constant. I'll just lower the speed a little, and let's put this into the Y, and this goes into the offset. So if I press play, I'll get this. Okay. Now if the circle is complete, it will look a little better. Like let's say if we bring it up to 36, which is the number that we should be at, you'll start to see something pretty interesting. Like let's slow it down a little. Yeah, there you go. See. And let's also do one thing. Let's take the stripes and make it smaller or thinner. Yeah. And if you want like more complications, we can, or you want to make it look more detailed, we can increase the frequency. So that looks, fancy as well. So you can actually get some, really nice detailed looking stuff with this. Yeah, just play around with the stripe width and the offset, so that will give you stuff that you can control overall. Okay, so I'll do one thing. I'll get rid of the frequency. Okay, and now let's use this to sort of offset the entire grid. Okay, another thing, like if you don't want to start at the pattern, what I can do is I can take an add in the middle. So we'll take an add constant and I'll just offset the pattern. See, so that will, so you won't start at like the basic pattern. It'll already be like somewhere in the middle. Okay, and we can try to, like, instead of Y, we can try to animate the X. I don't know how that will work, but yeah, that's not bad either. Let's try to do both. No, I think either X or Y. Okay, so now what I can do is I can just come up here, and firstly we'll take an add, and I'll get rid of the geometry and keep the points. So we'll just do this. I'll press D and we'll come to geometry and lower the point size. Okay, and then I can just take a wrangle, and I'll modify the y-axis. So we'll do at p dot y is equal to, I'll give it like a parameter so I can control the height. So I'll just call it height into at cd dot r. And let's create the parameter. And what that should do is, if we move this up, see, you actually get some pretty nice looking results. So I can like take it higher. There you go. See, if you want to simplify it, like come into the attribute warp and we can make a few adjustments. Like I can try to increase, either I can try to increase like the, the stripe width, and we can try to lower the destination max. See, there you go. That looks nice. That looks fancy. Okay. And what we can also do is, after the wrangle, I'll take a color node. I'll modify the color. So we'll do like ramp from attribute. Yeah. And set it to color, and just sort of, like adjust this. Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll take another wrangle and use this to set the alpha. So I'll come in here, I'll take at alpha, the A is capital, is equal to at cd dot r. You can also set this up, at like inside the wrangle, like we can do a bind and set it up that way. But this is fine. Okay, like we can do it at warp level, right? Like we can create, like I'll have to create like an alpha beforehand and then modify it, but you can do these things here as well. So you get, a little more fanciness in the whole thing. And, we can try to increase this, or let's keep it really low. Okay. And what you can also try is, let's say if I take it up to like 20, oh, that looks nice. And I'll take this to 18. And let's try to increase the offset. Yeah. So yeah, so now you can just, like experiment with the whole thing and see what you like. Like I can come here and just, adjust the height a bit more. Okay, as a final thing, what you can also do is, let's say like this thing is currently tiling, like you're getting like a repeat here. If you don't want that, okay, like this is something else we can try. We can try to increase the frequency here. Like let's say if you make it 2 by 2, that could give you more detail. Yeah, and then you can try to increase like the, the number of points. It will slow down a bit, but it will look nicer. Okay, as a final thing, what you can do is, like if you don't want the edges to repeat, like if I take this back to 0, see that's my pattern, and you're getting like repeats here, like because it tiles. So what you can do is, if you take this UV transform that is coming here and you put a clamp in it, then it will stop tiling. Because if I just take a clamp here and I lock it down, see, the tiling goes away. And this could give you a slightly different result. So like if I play this now, the result will be like, slightly different. Like at the edges, you get like this, stretch that happens. But it actually looks nice, And then you can just sort of play around with the fit range to see how much you want to push it. And if you want to make it look a little more fancy, let's get rid of the clamp for now. Okay. If you want to make it look a little fancy, we can try to do a mirror. So I can take a mirror and just mirror it vertically. So you'll get this, which looks nice. Looks like a very nice ornate structure. Or like bring it up. Yeah. Oh, that does look nice. And you can try to experiment with other patterns. Like if I come in here just as a final thing, and let's say if I pick up, I don't know, let's pick up a noise map just for fun. I'll take like a unified noise. So we'll take a unified noise static, and I'm going to take this and plug it into the position and take this noise and bring it out to stripes. Okay, let me just see one of them and see what I'm getting. Okay, and I'm going to have to animate it. So let's take we'll take the multiply constant. I'll take a float to vector 4 because this is like the offset here is a vector 4. Okay, so this comes into float to vector 4. This comes into Z, and that goes into offset. And it should give me something. Okay, let's just try it a little bit. I don't know how this is going to look. Okay, so let me just increase the frequency to around 4. Okay, that's not bad. And let's try Worley. Okay, hold on. Or I don't know. This is a complete mystery to me. I don't know what I'm doing. But you can try, like you can try making interesting patterns and see how they work out. Oh, that looks nice. Okay, let's try to get it to 3. See how that looks. Oh, that looks fancy enough. Let's try Manhattan. Okay, not bad. Let me just take a fit range here in the middle and I'll just sort of sharpen it a little bit. And let's try to speed it up. Okay, that's not bad. I mean, you can try different things. You can see how it works out. Okay, I think this is the best option that we have right now. But yeah, you have different you have like a whole variety of patterns. So you can always try it out and see what works and what doesn't work. Okay. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So this is how you can use for loops and generate something fancy in Houdini. Alright, so as this tutorial goes live, the entire patterns and textures in Houdini series is now available on my website and on Gumroad. I'll put the link to the training in the description down below, and also I'll put a link to the trailer in the description. So if you want to get a better idea of everything that is covered in the training, you can look at the trailer. Alright, so that's pretty much it.